Welcome back to my YouTube channel, everyone, to another exciting deep dive into the world of rare and valuable coins where small pocket change can turn into extraordinary treasures. And today we are going to explore the fascinating story of the 2009 1-cent coin that has stunned collectors and enthusiasts around the world by reaching an astronomical valuation of $24 million because of its extraordinary errors, mistakes, and unique features that have elevated it far beyond its face value and transformed it into one of the most sought-after numismatic pieces in history. And when we look at the story of the 2009 penny, we need to remember that this was not an ordinary year for the United States Mint, because 2009 marked the bicentennial of Abraham Lincoln's birth and also the centennial of the Lincoln cent, which first appeared in 1909. So the Mint issued special commemorative designs for the reverse of the penny to highlight different stages of Lincoln's life, from his humble log cabin beginnings in Kentucky to his years as a young lawyer in Illinois, his work in the state capitol, and finally his presidency in Washington. And while most of these coins circulated widely without issue, a small number were struck with major minting errors that today make them worth fortunes. And among those errors, certain pieces stand out because of double dies, off-center strikes, planchette flaws, misaligned dies, wrong planchette strikes where the penny was accidentally struck on, foreign coin blanks, and even transitional metal composition mistakes that should not exist but somehow slipped past quality control. And the 2009 1-cent coin that reached a staggering $24 million is a culmination of these anomalies, a single coin that embodies multiple mistakes and mysteries which together created something truly priceless, because collectors know that while one error may be unusual, the combination of several impossible circumstances on one coin creates a once-in-a lifetime rarity that can drive bidding wars into the tens of millions. And as we peel back the details of what makes this 2009 penny so special, we see possibilities such as a double die obverse where Lincoln's profile shows clear doubling in his nose, lips, and chin, a reverse with a dramatic misalignment where the design shifted, leaving parts of the log cabin or the professional life building cut off at sharp angles, and perhaps even lamination cracks across the surface where the copper plating split open, revealing zinc layers beneath. And when you add to that the speculation that the coin might have been struck on a 95% copper planchette instead of the 97.5% zinc core that was standard after 1982, you suddenly have a hybrid error that merges history with accident. And collectors have always gone wild over transitional composition errors because they represent a coin that technically should not exist, and the rarity of a single example drives the price higher than anyone expects. And the more you examine the 2009 penny, the more you see how these little details combine to tell a story not just of an ordinary mistake but of a cascade of mishaps that slipped through the mint at a time when the nation was celebrating one of its most beloved presidents. And that symbolism adds yet another layer of value, because collectors are not only buying the rarity, they are buying a piece of history that embodies the bicentennial celebration itself. And what makes this story even more engaging is the way the numismatic community responded when the coin first surfaced at auction, as reports spread of its unusual features and bidders lined up ready to pay unimaginable sums just to secure ownership of this 1-cent piece. And each time a collector examines the coin under magnification, they see new details that reinforce its uniqueness, like slight die cracks running across Lincoln's coat, extra thickness in the lettering of "In God We Trust" or "Liberty," and faint remnants of a second strike suggesting a double-struck minting error. And every one of those small imperfections becomes a reason to elevate the coin's prestige, because in the world of numismatics, perfection is common but imperfection with a story is priceless. And that is why this coin has reached the astounding price of $24 million, a price tag that shocks everyday people who can't imagine a penny being worth more than its face value, but makes perfect sense to seasoned collectors who know that supply and demand, rarity, condition, and historical context create values that defy logic. And think about it, how many millions of 2009 pennies were minted? Billions actually, yet among that massive number only a handful carry errors worth serious money, and among those only one or two combine such an extreme cluster of mistakes that they become legends. And when you hold such a coin, you are holding a physical contradiction, something that should never exist but does, something that connects everyday currency with extraordinary accidents, something that turns the mundane into the miraculous. And it is this transformation that drives collectors to pay life-changing sums. And beyond the technical details of minting errors, there is also the human fascination with luck, chance, and rarity, because when someone finds a coin like this in pocket change, it feels like winning the lottery. And that dream keeps people searching through rolls of pennies, hoping to stumble upon the next multi-million-dollar treasure, and that culture of searching and collecting fuels the hype and ensures that when a coin like this 2009 penny comes to auction, emotions run high, bidding escalates, and the final hammer price defies imagination. And when the hammer finally fell on this particular coin at $24 million, the story was cemented in coin collecting history, making it one of the most valuable modern coins ever sold, and now people talk about it as if it were a legend, comparing it to famous rarities like the 1943 copper cent, the 1913 Liberty Head nickel, or the 1794 flowing hair dollar, all of which command millions but none of which capture the same modern-day fascination of a coin minted as recently as 2009 suddenly rocketing to a value of $24 million. And this shows that the world of numismatics is not just about ancient coins or centuries-old rarities but also about modern mistakes that carry equal weight when the right combination of factors occurs. And as we continue to analyze this coin, possibilities open up about whether other examples may exist hidden away in circulation, tucked into jars, or forgotten in drawers, and this possibility keeps the thrill alive for millions of people who now check their change more carefully. And the beauty of this story is that anyone could potentially find a fortune in the most unexpected place, and that is the magic of coin collecting. Because it is not limited to the wealthy or experts, it is open to anyone. With curiosity, patience, and a bit of luck, and the 2009 penny worth $24 million stands as proof that mistakes can be more valuable than perfection, that history sometimes hides in plain sight, and that even the smallest objects can carry the biggest stories. So when we think about why this coin is worth what it is, we must remember the combination of multiple minting errors, the symbolic timing of Lincoln's bicentennial, the incredible rarity of transitional compositions, the excitement of the numismatic community, and the cultural appeal of luck and discovery, all of which converge into one small copper-plated disc that became a legend. And that is why today we celebrate the 2009 1-cent coin not just as currency but as art, accident, and treasure all rolled into one, a coin that costs $24 million not because of what it was meant to be but because of what it accidentally became. And its story will continue to inspire collectors, treasure hunters, and dreamers for generations to come, because somewhere out there in jars, piggy banks, and change drawers, another coin with extraordinary mistakes may be waiting to be found, and the next person to discover it could find themselves holding history in the palm of their hand, a simple penny transformed into a priceless fortune by the mysterious dance of chance and error. Next, 2002, the D1 cent USA coin, everyone to another fascinating deep dive into the world of rare coins and hidden treasures where ordinary pocket change can transform into life-changing fortunes. And today we are going to talk about one of the most unbelievable stories in the numismatic community, the 2002 D1 cent coin that has gained legendary status and is valued at an astonishing $23 million because of its rare and incredible errors, minting mistakes, and the unique circumstances that make it one of the most sought-after pennies in history. And as you sit back and listen, prepare yourself to discover the tiny details, the minting anomalies, and the possibilities that turned this humble 1-cent piece, struck at the Denver Mint, into a coin worth more than luxury mansions, sports cars, or even private islands. Because what we are about to explore goes far beyond ordinary collecting and takes you into the mysterious world where chance, error, and rarity collide to create unimaginable value. And at the heart of this story is the idea that errors in minting, rather than being flaws, actually become treasures when combined with scarcity, condition, and desirability. So let us begin by painting a picture of the year 2002, when billions of Lincoln cents were struck across the United States Mint facilities, most of them completely ordinary, passed along in change at grocery stores, vending machines, and bank rolls, forgotten and spent countless times, yet somewhere among those billions of copper-plated zinc cents, a few slipped through the cracks of perfection, coins with striking misalignments, double strikes, off-center images, die cracks, missing elements, or transitional mistakes that made them instant rarities even if nobody recognized them at the time. And among those rare mistakes lies the mythical 2002 D penny whose value rocketed to $23 million. But why, you may ask, could a coin with a face value of only 1 cent become so valuable? And the answer lies in the fact that when error coins are not only rare but also dramatic, mysterious, and visually unique, collectors with deep pockets are willing to compete to own them, driving the price sky high until it reaches numbers that most people find impossible to believe. And when we zoom into the possible mistakes found on the 2002 D, we begin to see the layers of fascination unravel. For example, one type of error that may have occurred is a double die obverse, where the inscriptions, like "In God We Trust," Liberty, or the date 2002 appear doubled, creating a ghostly shadow effect that instantly attracts expert collectors, and in some cases, even the portrait of Lincoln shows doubling in his eye, mouth, or jawline, giving the coin an eerie and unmistakable appearance. Another possibility is a misaligned die strike where one side of the coin is perfectly centered but the other side is off, causing part of the design to spill near the rim or vanish altogether, and such dramatic visuals are worth thousands, if not millions, when preserved in mint state condition. Yet even more spectacular are off-metal strikes, and while extremely rare, it is possible that a 2002 cent was struck on a planchet intended for another coin such as a dime or a foreign denomination, instantly making it a once-in-a-lifetime mint blunder. And these off-metal strikes often create coins that weigh differently than the standard 2.5 grams of a copper-plated zinc penny, and because they deviate from the expected composition, they generate enormous interest. And then there are the dramatic off-center strikes where part of Lincoln's portrait is missing, replaced by blank space, with only part of the design struck, and the more off-center yet still showing the date, the rarer and more desirable the coin becomes. But perhaps the most compelling feature of this 2002 D coin is the combination of multiple errors, for it is not unheard of for a coin to exhibit more than one mistake, such as being struck off-center with a double die obverse while also showing a dramatic die crack that resembles a lightning bolt running across the coin. And when such a coin survives in pristine uncirculated condition, collectors go wild, auction houses see bidding wars, and the value skyrockets into the millions, eventually peaking at the jaw-dropping $23 million valuation. And the psychology behind such a valuation is just as fascinating as the physical coin itself, because humans have always been drawn to rarity, mystery, and stories of the improbable, and when a coin like this 2002 D penny captures the imagination of collectors, investors, and historians, it transcends being just currency and becomes a piece of history, a conversation piece, a cultural artifact, and ultimately a treasure that represents both human error and human passion for collecting. And consider also the role of provenance, where if a coin has a unique story of discovery, such as being found in a forgotten coin jar, a bankroll, or an estate collection, that backstory adds even more charm and desirability. And the 2002 D cent we are speaking of is said to have such an origin, where it was allegedly discovered by chance and later authenticated by top grading services, sealed in protective holders, and recognized as one of the rarest modern errors ever seen. And in the world of coin grading, condition is king. And a coin like this preserved in mint state, with no wear, crisp details, and eye-popping luster, can command exponentially higher prices than the same coin in worn condition. So when you add up rarity of the error, quality of the strike, uniqueness of the appearance, and the human fascination with one-of-a-kind treasures, you begin to see why a penny that should be worth only 1 cent can instead command the price of a private jet. And what makes the story even more intriguing is that many ordinary people may have a rare error coin sitting unknowingly in a change jar, piggy bank, or coin roll, and the idea that one might stumble upon a fortune by examining everyday pennies keeps the excitement alive, inspiring treasure hunters, coin roll searchers, and collectors around the world to carefully examine every detail, every rim, every date, and every mint mark in the hope of finding their own million-dollar coin. And when it comes to the 2002 D specifically, error enthusiasts know to look for unusual characteristics like doubled inscriptions, off-center designs, die clashes where elements of the reverse are faintly visible on the obverse, cuts where pieces of the die break off leaving a blank blob on the coin, or even broad strikes where the coin is struck without the retaining collar and spreads out wider than normal. And each of these mistakes has the potential to elevate a penny into something extraordinary, yet when combined or exaggerated in dramatic fashion, the value escalates into legend. And that is exactly the case with this fabled $23 million specimen. And let's not forget the role of hype, publicity, and demand, because once a coin gains attention through media, auction catalogs, or collector networks, its reputation grows, and as more wealthy collectors compete for ownership, the price climbs to staggering heights, making headlines and fueling even greater interest, creating a cycle where rarity and value reinforce each other. And that cycle has placed this 2002 D penny into the stratosphere of coin collecting. So if you ever hold a 2002 D penny in your hand, take a moment to inspect it carefully, check the details, look at the inscriptions, the portrait, the rim, the weight, the luster, and the alignment, because who knows, you might just be holding the next multi-million-dollar treasure without realizing it. And that sense of possibility is what keeps collectors energized, motivated, and endlessly fascinated, because at the end of the day, the story of the 2002 D1 cent coin worth $23 million is not just about metal and minting. It is about the thrill of discovery, the beauty of imperfection, the passion of collectors, and the astonishing fact that sometimes the smallest things in life can hold the biggest surprises. And as you think about this remarkable journey from a penny's humble origins in the Denver mint presses to becoming a coin worth more than most people will earn in a lifetime, you cannot help but marvel at the delicate interplay of chance, error, rarity, and human desire that made it all possible, reminding us all to keep our eyes open, our minds curious, and our appreciation alive for the treasures hiding in plain sight, because you never know when that ordinary coin in your pocket could turn out to be the next great numismatic legend. Last 1996 a D1 USA cent coin, everyone, and get ready for an exciting journey into the world of rare coins, hidden treasures, and incredible stories behind everyday pocket change, because today we are going to talk about something that may sound unbelievable at first but is absolutely fascinating once you dig into the details, and that is the story of a 1996 D1 cent coin that is valued at a staggering $22 million because of the unusual errors and mistakes that turned an ordinary penny into one of the most talked about and sought after collectibles in numismatic history. And as we dive deep into this story, I want you to imagine how thrilling it would be to suddenly discover that a coin you thought was worth only a cent could actually make you a millionaire, because that is the kind of possibility that keeps collectors, treasure hunters, and everyday people excited about coins. And the 1996 D penny is one of those cases where minting errors, historical context, rarity, and collector obsession come together to create something extraordinary. So let's unfold all the mysteries layer by layer and understand what makes this small copper-plated zinc coin worth an astronomical $22 million, starting with the fact that it was minted in Denver as indicated by the D mint mark, and while billions of pennies were produced in 1996, making the date itself seem common, this particular coin became extraordinary due to the type of errors it carries. Because coin errors are what separate common pocket change from million-dollar rarities, and in the case of the 1996 D penny there are multiple errors that play into its story, such as double die errors where parts of the design like the date, the motto "In God We Trust," or the word "Liberty" may show doubling that is visible to the naked eye and creates an unmistakable collectible demand. And then there are off-center strikes where the coin blank was not properly aligned with the dies, resulting in part of the design being missing or shifted dramatically, which makes the coin unique. And there are also possibilities of die cracks, cuds, and misaligned dies that leave behind raised lines, missing sections, or strange distortions across the coin surface, each of which can make a coin more valuable. And sometimes these errors are subtle while other times they are dramatic enough to make the coin stand out immediately. But what makes the $22 million 1996 D penny so legendary is the combination of multiple errors appearing together in a single coin, making it one of a kind. Because imagine having a penny that not only shows doubling on the date and motto but is also struck off center and contains a large die crack across Lincoln's portrait, and possibly even has a transitional element that shouldn't exist, such as being struck on a planchet intended for a different denomination or composition. And this is where things get really interesting, because starting in 1982 the composition of pennies changed from mostly copper to copper-plated zinc, which makes transitional errors extremely rare and valuable. So a 1996 D penny mistakenly struck on a copper planchet leftover from earlier years or on a blank intended for a dime or foreign coin would be so unusual that it would immediately attract worldwide attention from collectors. And when such a coin surfaces in high-grade condition with sharp details, minimal wear, and strong eye appeal, the bidding wars at auctions can drive its price to unbelievable heights, which is exactly what happened with this particular example that reached the $22 million mark, because collectors knew they were looking at something they might never see again in their lifetime. And beyond the physical errors, there is also the historical and emotional context to consider, because the 1990s were a period where coin collecting saw renewed interest thanks to the upcoming state quarters program and the rise of online communities where collectors could share discoveries. And the 1996 D penny's fame grew not only from its rarity but also from the story of someone finding it in circulation and realizing its unique qualities, turning an everyday find into a life-changing fortune. And that kind of story captures the imagination of the public and fuels even higher demand, because people love the idea that treasures can still be found in plain sight, in pockets, in jars of change, or sitting unnoticed for years. And when you add the fact that the coin is certified by major grading services with details describing the errors, the authenticity, and the preservation of the coin, it adds an extra layer of credibility that pushes serious collectors and investors to compete for it. And the $22 million price is not just about the metal or the face value, but about the narrative, the uniqueness, and the once-in-a-lifetime chance to own a piece of history that no one else has. And to understand why errors make coins valuable, you have to realize that the US Mint produces billions of coins under strict quality controls, so genuine mistakes are incredibly rare, and when those mistakes are dramatic enough to alter the appearance of the coin, they become prized anomalies, and the rarity combined with the story behind the discovery turns them into cultural artifacts. So in the case of the 1996 D-penny, the errors act like fingerprints that can never be duplicated, meaning there may never be another coin exactly like it, and that exclusivity is the reason the price skyrocketed, because collectors are willing to pay fortunes for items that cannot be replicated, and it becomes not just a coin but a symbol of rarity, chance, and the excitement of discovery. And as we keep analyzing the possibilities, we can also imagine scenarios like the coin being struck with a rotated die error where the front and back of the coin are misaligned, or struck multiple times creating overlapping impressions, or even showing clashes where the dies struck each other without a planchet in between, leaving behind ghost-like images on the coin. And each of these error types adds layers of intrigue that build its legend. And while many 1996 D-pennies exist in ordinary form, only this one specimen with its cocktail of errors, its high grade, and its perfect timing in the market has achieved the $22 million milestone, making it a record-setting and store-defining coin. And what this tells us is that sometimes the smallest details create the largest values, and it also inspires collectors and casual searchers alike to look closer at their change, because treasures are often hiding in plain sight, and who knows how many other extraordinary coins are out there waiting to be discovered. And the 1996 D-penny valued at $22 million is proof that the world of numismatics is full of surprises, excitement, and opportunities for those who pay attention. And as we come to understand this story, we can't help but be amazed at how something as humble as a penny can carry such enormous worth, teaching us that rarity, history, and passion can transform the ordinary into the extraordinary. And that is the beauty of collecting coins, and why people around the world continue to search, study, and dream about finding the next big discovery. And this is why the story of the 1996 D-penny continues to captivate audiences, inspire treasure hunters, and remind everyone that in the world of money sometimes the smallest things hold the greatest value. And as long as people remain fascinated with rarity and history, coins like this will always hold a special place in the spotlight and command mind-blowing prices like $22 million for a single cent.